In this video I would like to show you how I made a chameleon enclosure that you see behind me. The only thing that I missed in the beginning is to film how I assembled the aluminium construction that is the framework for the whole terrarium, but it's pretty straightforward. I ordered aluminum profiles that were cut to the dimensions that I provided, specified, and then I used those plastic connectors to connect the profiles together with a rubber hammer. Then it was time to cut the acrylic panels so that they fit into the aluminum frame, and then it was time to glue the plastic rails for the sliding doors that will be also made of acrylic panels. So I first used the solvent to make sure that the glue sticks together, and then I used the solvent-free glue to make sure it's not toxic for animals. Yeah, so I put the glue on the rail and then put the rail on the aluminum frame, and then it was time to glue the top rail. So as you can see, I do it from two pieces because I bought pieces that are 1 meter long and the terrarium is 1 meter and 20 centimeters long. And I use the clamps to keep it in place until the glue hardens. And I also glue the smaller piece. You need to be very accurate when you put the two pieces of rails together so that the doors don't stuck when you try to slide them. Then there was time to glue side panels. As you can see, I put the masking tape on the acrylic to make it neat and clean. And the aluminum profile that I use has these kind of wings, so that I first put glue on those wings and attach the acrylic, and then I put the glue on the acrylic panel itself to cover the edges. And then I use my finger to smooth out the glue seams. And here it's time to put the back panel. I just repeat the procedure, glue it to the wings on aluminum panels, and here I'm putting the glue on the wings to glue the second panel. And I even have someone helping me here. To put the second panel. Pressing the panel and using the clamps to hold it in place. And after this I waited for the glue to harden and then applied the glue on the edges of the acrylic and did a nice seam. Here putting in place the second part of the side panel. Glue on the wings, attach the panel, and the same thing on the right side. Smoothing out the seams here. And this is how it looks like when I remove the masking tape. And here you can see the procedure repeated. Time to clean. Everything glued in place. Now attaching the top panel. This is actually aside from the previous terrarium cage, the net cage that I used before for the chameleon. from the Zoom at Rep Debris. And here attaching the handles to the doors. First I did it with silicone, but it detached after some time, so I used the multi-purpose solvent-free glue that I used for the whole terrarium. It worked much better. For some reason the silicone doesn't stick well to plastics. It detaches after some time. Now removing all the protective plastic sheets and cleaning with micro mesh. You have to be really careful with acrylic not to scratch it, only use micro mesh. And here I will be installing the background, black background, a kind of plastic foil that you use on furniture and so on. So I sprayed it with dishwashing liquid mixed with water to make it like slide on the surface so that I can put it evenly. So this plastic foil has glue on it actually, so it has to be actually applied a bit too little dishwashing liquid, so I had to add more, and it's much more difficult to move it around if it's not completely wet with dishwashing liquid. And now evening out and taking out all the air bubbles. And this is how the drainage looks like. I didn't show how I installed it, but it was something like a gasket I bought at the hardware store and glue it in place. Here I am installing ventilation crates, and I put some mesh inside to prevent the insects from going out from the terrarium in case they escape, if they are not eaten by the chameleon. And they are fitting quite tightly, so I just need to push them in, no need for gluing. In case of this enclosure, I decided that I don't want a screen cage, because I live in a quite cold climate, so it's very dry all the time, so I really need the more of the closed enclosure to keep the humidity in. So I have ventilation in front and on top. And during the day I use a fan that blows dry air into the enclosure. Veiled chameleon prefers more dry air during the day. And finally it was time to install the misting system to provide a proper hydration for the chameleon. I do the misting in the evening for several minutes, and then early in the morning for several minutes. It's also good if you have the possibility to make misting during the night, but unfortunately I sleep in the same room, so I would simply wake up during the misting, even though the misting system is very quiet. So I simply poked some holes through the mesh net and installed the bulkheads for the misting nozzles that will spray the water in the terrarium. So I installed 3 double nozzles. This enclosure is 125 centimeters long, so you need 6 nozzles to make a good coverage. Now the 3 double nozzles are in place, and I attach some pressure pipes to provide water to the nozzles. Here I drill a hole in the framework and attach the pipe so that it doesn't vibrate, because when the water under pressure is going through the nozzles, the pipe will vibrate, so it's good to attach it. Here I am connecting a hose to the pump and to the bucket, and the bucket needs to have a bulkhead installed on the bottom because the pump has to be under the water level, below the water level. And I used a lot of silicone to keep the bulkhead in place because previously I had some problems with detaching. And filling with reverse osmosis water, clean water. If you use tap water you will have stains on the side of the acrylic because there are some salts in the water. Then after the water evaporates, the salts will be left on the acrylic. So best to use RO, and as you can see the misting system is working. Nice fine mist. Here I install UV lamp. I use Arcadia 54 watt 6%. In the beginning I used this kind of a stand for plants, but I ended up not using it actually. Here installing protection of the side panels because I will be putting in the plants, so I don't want the plants and branches to scratch the acrylic. Putting first ficus. As you can see the pot is too small to stand on the construction that I made. And then it was just trial and error to see how the different branches look like and where the Chameleon will have more place to go, make some interesting structures, climbing structures. I also added on the right side Schefflera plant, the umbrella plant I think it's called, and it has grown immensely. Like, I filmed it several weeks ago and it's like almost doubled in size. So it likes the environment in the terrarium. Yes, here adjusting branches. I collected some branches in nature and I pressed them into the pots with ficus and Schefflera. And here you can see that I already removed this stand for plants. And that's because one, the plants were too high, they were touching the ceiling of the enclosure, so I wanted them lower. And the other thing is that actually the Schefflera that is now in the bigger pot, it became quite heavy and it like weighs down the bottom just in the place where the drainage is, so the water is draining much easier. And here you can see I am using zip ties to make the construction more robust, to make the branches stick together. Adding some more soil. It was I think it was Exoterra forest soil or something like this, just a terrarium soil. And now finally installing the sliding doors, removing the protective film and putting them in, and they slide perfectly. And checking out the misting system to see for any leaks. Looks very good. All of the branches get some moisture, and there's something very satisfying in just sitting and watching the misting. And now definitely the most exciting moment of the whole build, to introduce Mr. Binks to its new enclosure. It's much bigger, it's almost 3 times the volume of the old one. It's 20 centimeters higher and the area is more than twice as large. More branches, more places to explore. Really happy to see his new place. The foliage on this ficus is not so thick, and that's because in the old terrarium it was so little place that all the branches were like on the upper levels were shading the light. Thanks for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe and like, and see you later.